Hey, how's it going? It's Keith Townsend from the CTOadvisor.com, and we're at Interop again with Brett Johnson. Brett has spoke on my infrastructure track. Really appreciate you coming down and speaking on infrastructure as code, right?
Partly infrastructure as code, but practices around using your code, changing it from just a basic script to getting to the point where it can be accepted by change control to be part of the change process.
So all of that requires automation. When I was just across the street earlier this week at Dell World, they talked about IT modernization, and the key to IT modernization is automation. So with that said, automation is really hard. Like if automation was easy, we would have done it a long time ago, and we'd have 8 server administrators for every 1,000 servers or some crazy number like that. What are the top 2 or 3 challenges you encounter in your practice in helping customers to automation?
When you look at the difficulty of implementing any sort of automated solution, usually the code and the logic, they can be complex, but they're usually fairly simple compared to working with the business side of things, because technology generally is fairly logical. It is binary,
You know,
yes or no.
the syntax for saying, provision a VM, VMware has APIs. That piece is pretty straightforward.
Yes, and where it's not straightforward is when you say, okay, well, to fit this in, your current business process has these 1 to 100 points where it doesn't fit well with an automated process. And some of those points, when you have the discussion of, are they still required for this new way we're doing it? Why are they required? And sometimes that why are they required, it's not logical. It can be, we have to do it this way. It can be something that makes as much sense as regulatory, or it
Yeah,
could
well,
be,
there has to be some form filled out every time there's a new VM provision in a PCI security zone.
yeah.
It just is what it is.
Yep. And sometimes things can simply don't make as much sense as that, in terms of, okay, so we have to make sure that this is right on the input field, because for no other reason we just don't want the workflow to fail. So we need to pre-validate everything before you can submit the workflow. Those sorts of things that businesses may try to impose on you does trigger some what can be fairly intense or long workshops to find out that compromise between what will optimize that automated workflow, but also suit their requirements as a business.
All right. So second problem that you encounter in helping customers get to automation.
Skill set's a big one.
Oh,
So I come in as a consultant. So
right.
from a vendor, I'll come in as the consultant, and customers sometimes feel that it is the consultant, that when I walk out, that it will be finished, it'll be fine. With automation, it pushes development a bit back into the business, back into the BU, instead of relying on, let's buy a pre-boxed turnkey
Right.
product. We now have something where the code I write is going to have bugs. I can guarantee you it has bugs. I'm not perfect. Um, my code's not perfect. And when I leave, the clients need to have skill sets to be able to maintain that code.
Right.
We're now,
It worked when you left,
mm,
but something in the environment triggered. It could be a patch. It could be anything.
yeah,
And now the client has to have the skill to update the scripts or create new scripts
yep.
that support the workflows you already created for them.
Yeah, and it could be an error event occurred while I wasn't there. Like after I left, an error event occurred. This is some strange error event, for lack of a technical term.
Yeah, like the log file on the storage array filled up.
Yeah.
Whatever that you didn't account for when you were writing the code.
Exactly, and my default error handling may not handle that. So then, after the event, that needs to be added to the code, and clients often have an issue coming into the grasp of what are our skill sets to maintain this as a long term, compared to just, well, we're used to, as an enterprise, we put it in here for 7 years, we're going to pay our ELA, and then we'll go to the next version, or N-1 at the time, compared to, no, we need to continually tune and work on it.
Okay. Is there a third point, or is that pretty much top two? Because what I've heard so far is people and process.
Yes.
Is there a technology challenge?
Technology challenge can be there if you have to integrate with previous things. So if you've got to integrate with a really old version of DNS, for example.
Mhm.
Maybe they've got bind 4. Let's just pull some numbers out of the air, and it may not support some default the way the command structures are sent from a plugin. So these are technology challenges that you have to work with. And if it's DNS being a core service, they're probably not likely to really just upgrade that to the latest version of bind to make it work for you.
Right.
You need to find a way to work around it. So generally speaking, technology is normally a legacy thing.
Right.
Outside of that, when you integrate with other parts, it's more than of a logic issue of I need to get this from here and this from here, which manipulates this.
Does the thing that you even integrate with even have an API? So if you're going to automate network, does your network even have your physical network even have an API so that you could even send a request to?
Yes, exactly. Another one is, oh great, we want to use Ansible for this. Does that Ansible playbook actually cover all those features that I need to use? If I'm working on UCS Manager, does their Ansible playbook cover service templates? Okay, if it does or it doesn't, that's where you can get a bit of a technology issue as well. There's not necessarily legacy, and that then can come down to, well, if they need it, then maybe they have to develop it and give back to the community.
So, Brett, I really appreciate you jumping in here and jumping on the CTO Dose. Do you blog in Twitter?
Yeah, so at Twitter, I'm at BrettJohnson008, and I blog at sdbrett.com.
All right, and you can find the CTO Dose at ctodose.com and the blog podcast at thectoadvisor.com. And of course, you can find me on Twitter at CTO Advisor. Talk to you next, CTO Dose.